Hey everyone, this is the Black Manga Critic here with another video for Watching Wednesdays. So basically, I'm going to try to put out at least 2 videos on every day that I'm like particularly, sort of scheduled to put out videos. So Manga Mondays, Watching Wednesdays, Weekly Shonen Jump Thursdays, and Fantastic Fridays. I'm going to put out at least 2 videos out on those days. So always be on the lookout for that content on those days, alright? And also remember, like, comment, and subscribe if you want to be notified for more content. Find me on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. I'm always tweeting. I want you to tweet back. I'm always trying to have conversations with all my followers. I'm trying to get that grind, but I'm also trying to, have fun with it. I'm also trying to meet new people because it's hard meeting new people in the world, right? Physically, right? Where, you can sort of just talk about anime, talk about manga, like, all the time. So, like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. Find me on Facebook, excuse me, and find me on Twitter. All right. So basically, I'm probably going to talk about really just sort of I want to say 2 things because I don't really care so much about the animation at this point. At this point, like the animation is always going to be pretty good. So there's not really much to say about the animation for Made in Abyss unless like really like sort of action-packed episode kind of happens. Or something like that. But for now, it's like it's basically whatever. I don't really care too much about the animation right now. It's fine. It's very good. Let's move on. But the second thing that I do want to talk about is sort of 2 things. Actually, you know what? 3 things. Right. So the first thing was the animation, but the second thing is going to be sort of Nat and Rico and what's sort of going on there. And that sort of has to do with the third thing that I want to talk about, which is the ending of the episode and sort of how the episode sort of led to the end of that episode, like near like the sort of tail end of it, right? So if we're gonna talk about Nat and Rico, right, we have to think about just the fact that they are very close friends. Clearly, they care about one another, and that's cool, right? So the thing that I think was sort of mediocre about this episode was that like we don't get a lot. In terms of sort of their kind of relationship. I think it's sort of like, okay, they're close friends, they're childhood friends, they sort of grew up together in a lot of ways, and that's all well and dandy. But that dynamic I don't particularly care about because like we've only gotten like a couple of episodes to sort of see how that dynamic works out. And this episode was really, to me, like at least way more about Nat than Rico. Rico's sort of just like, okay, the general summary for her in this episode is, I'm excited, I want to go see my mom, I have to go see my mom. Which is fine. I get it. You're a 12-year-old girl, you haven't seen your mom in a long time, like, and you love your mom, and you want to see your mom. I totally understand that. So I'm not particularly, like, concerned about how they're portraying that dynamic. But what was interesting to me, at least like the one thing that I really did sort of care about in this episode was when Rico starts to Nat starts going into sort of his backstory about how he's sort of raised in like the kind of slum sort of area of the sort of city that's like built around the abyss, and like that was really interesting because Reg sort of like quickly slip thinks that like, hey, like that was like the same story I told Leader, and it's like that was interesting to me because it's almost like Reg is in some ways like very much so malleable, right? In a way that he can sort of like take the stories and the feelings and the desires of these characters, right? So when we're thinking about, let's say like Nat, we're thinking about the fact that like they use his backstory to sort of build Reg as a character, right? In the way that he's interacting with individuals and things of that nature. But if you think about Rico, there's a point in the episode where Rico's sort of like, I didn't want to be selfish and like, take you all for myself, like, right? In a sort of possessive sort of way, in a sense that like Reg is kind of like this sort of like tabula rasa or whatever, this sort of like blank slate that can sort of be like drawn on and like things can be imposed upon and things of that nature. So in that way, like what I'm sort of interested in seeing later is Reg sort of really becoming his own character, and Reg sort of becoming a character that isn't the sort of amalgamation of Riko's desires and Nat's backstory and all of these little things, right? And like Liza's retelling of who he is as sort of as a robot, sort of synthezoid or whatever, right? So that's really interesting. I want to see that. I want to see more of that. But we got that subtly, and I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that of an impact. I want to see a lot of that. So yeah, and that sort of leads me to sort of my thoughts about the ending of the episode. And I think the thing that sort of got to me was that the way that it ended was sort of kind of ridiculous. And the narrative kind of feels a little bit forced in a certain way, right? In the sense that like the fact that like they all just kind of escaped and and got past the whatever security was supposed to be there, and they just went down into the abyss, right? It's stuff like that kind of like I don't know, like it's a little weird. I think that like what I was kind of expecting and what I felt like the episode was sort of leading us towards was a way in which like Nat might have felt guilty because he had already sort of betrayed his friends and sort of ratted them out or whatever to like the higher ups and the adults, and they would have caught Riko and the rest of them, and they wouldn't have been able to go into the abyss, and they would have had to think of a better plan for that. But that didn't happen, and that kind of disappointed me. I was just kind of like, okay, this show's kind of like this. It felt kind of forced. Like it shouldn't have been this easy for Riko to enter the abyss at all, right? It's a little ridiculous. So for me, that kind of bothered me. And I think that like if we saw Nat rat them out in a sense, right? Like that would have been great for me because it would have shown how much he cares about his friendships, right? That like he cared, so much about it, that he cares so much about his friendships that he would like, make sure that like Riko doesn't get hurt and make her wait to enter the abyss until she's ready for it. But it's a saying it, so shit has to go down. And now that she's like a 12-year-old girl going into the abyss with Reg, who doesn't even really know who he is, right? Outside of the fact that he has robot parts and things like that, like they're gonna struggle, they're gonna suffer, it's gonna be bad. There's gonna be some intense shit, and now I'm sort of expecting that, so and that's fine. But I do think that I felt like them being able to sort of go down into the abyss that easily was a little ridiculous, and hopefully they sort of sort of ramp up the danger and the violence once Riko and Reg are in the abyss. So yeah, that's pretty much my review. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to make sure that these videos aren't too long, and I'm trying not to like squeeze in like any half-assed sort of like analyses or points that I notice or anything like that. Like I'm not trying to do any of that. Like I'm not trying to zero in on every single little point that happens in the episode, because then I'd just be summarizing the thing. But like I said, this episode was kind of mediocre. It kind of went down a little bit. I think that it will pick up because now they've entered the abyss, and maybe the adults will try to like get them out before they reach like the level in which like the adults can't go after them, and they consider they're entering suicide, right? Like once like I see a little bit of that and a little bit of action pickup, and I see Riko and Reg deal with some sort of instances and walls where they have to sort of persevere and struggle and things of that nature, then I'm pretty sure the episode will ramp up again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to episode 4, if only because like I want to see more of the abyss. I want to see how the adults will respond, things like that. Things like that. So yeah, that's my review. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe if you want to be notified for more content. Find me on Twitter. Like I said, I'm always on Twitter. I'm always checking my YouTube. Find me on Facebook. I'm really trying to sort of start things up on Facebook. I'm trying to like set up like chats and and little sort of mini videos and things like that that aren't like long ass reviews or anything, but just like little like snippets of like, oh, this episode was great, this episode sucked, this episode was alright, stuff like that. So look out for me on all of those platforms. So this is the Black Manga Critic, and I'm out.